The ultimate guide to cold calling. What is cold calling? Cold calling is a form of telemarketing in which a salesperson attempts to solicit business from potential customers who have not previously expressed interest in the seller's product or solution. For outbound sales teams, cold calling is often the first and arguably the most important steps towards creating sales opportunities. The goal is to make the first contact with a person or company that fits your ideal customer profile. Briefly introduce your product or solution and determine if there's enough interest to move forward. Part 1: How to qualify on a cold call. Qualifying leads is the primary goal of cold calling. After all, you need to know pretty quickly whether it's worth investing your time in a lead or not. If they're not going to buy, you need to be able to move on to leads who will. Traditionally, qualifying is done on an initial cold call. These days, though, lead qualification is a process that should involve not just you as the sales rep or SDR, but your marketing team. If your sales organization follows an inbound model, your marketing team will pass along leads they already know are viable, and it's your job to figure out their exact needs and sell to them. For outbound teams, the foundational work of finding qualified leads often falls to the sales rep themselves. Briefly, let's go over which parts of the qualifying process your marketing team should be doing so we can move on to what aspects of qualifying should take place on your cold call. Marketing role in qualifying. Pre-call qualifying. It's best to do as much qualifying as possible before you get on the phone. Your prospects aren't interested in answering 100 questions, especially when they know you could have found the answer on your own. Plus, pre-call research helps you disqualify prospects before you even pick up the phone, saving you valuable time. Generally, you should look up to qualifying based on your persona. Does the lead work at a company with the right amount of employees? What's their job title? Can you tell what exactly they're responsible for? LinkedIn and Google make it possible to answer the vast majority of such questions without ever talking to anyone. If possible, you should also take a look to see if leads has taken the right high value actions on your site that indicates their interest in talking to you. The good news for sales teams at companies with inbound marketing is that your marketing team should have the capacity to qualify leads based on both website behavior and buyer personal data. Effectively, that means your marketing team can determine through various nurturing programs if a lead works at a company with the right amount of employees, if a customer is in a relevant industry, and if other characteristics that align your buyer persona. It also means marketing can determine if a lead has taken the correct website behaviors to display interest in talking to an actual human about your product. Ultimately, you're going to have to sit down with your marketing team and discuss which high value data points they are capable of measuring to define what an SQL sales qualified lead is to your company. In general, your team should be able to gather that qualifies and the in general, your team should be able to gather data that qualifies the lead as being your local target or your target audience, and may even be able to identify who the lead will be in the buying process. Influencer decision maker. What's left for you to qualify on the phone? Once you have achieved an SQL definition that works for your company, you should be able to focus on finding out what sorts of problems your prospect is having and to figure out how your product can solve these problems. Discussing 3 or 4 problems in your initial call with customer correlates with over 80% likelihood of closing that sale. View yourself less as a salesperson at this point and more of a customer advocate. When you focus on truly providing help to a customer, they're more likely to trust you. As a note, despite the fact that your SQL should come to your desk with quite a lot of information, do your research before you call someone up. Make sure the lead is someone they've said they are. Check out their LinkedIn to understand what their job title really means. Visit their company website to learn what they do and how to get a feel of how you can help. Research will ensure that you are not wasting your time, and it will also allow you to skip aspects of your cold call that its prospect may find off putting, like having to explain to you that they don't do what you thought they did. If you don't want to if you don't want your cold calls to be cold, there's a way to ease yourself into that first contact. If you have email addresses associated with the names on your prospecting list, you can load those emails into LinkedIn or Facebook and create custom audiences based on those emails. Then run a small ad to all of the people that you plan to call the following week. That way, when you reach out to them, they may have heard of you already. Popular cold call qualifying methods. There are a number of methods with various acronymic names for qualifying prospects on cold calls. Let's take a look at some of them. BANT, Budget Authority Need Timeline. BANT was created by IBM BANT was created by IBM salespeople quite some time ago, and it's the older method of qualifying on cold call that we mention here. BANT is generally considered to be a fairly outdated because it doesn't really take into account all the lead nurturing that a marketing team will be doing. With BANT method, salespeople focus on their qualifying questions, first on determining budget, next on determining whether or not the salesperson they're talking to really is the decision maker, then on what the company actually needs are, and finally what the sales timeline will look like for the company. If it seems odd to you that BANT firmly encourages a salesperson to find out what a company's budget is before finding out if they even need your product, you're not alone. That's one of the major reasons other methods have been invented. CHAMP, Challenges Authority Money Prioritization. CHAMP is essentially NABT. While it follows the general principles of BANT, CHAMP prioritizes learning your lead's pain points above all else, making it a more customer-centric method. Additionally, where salespeople following the BANT method will drop a lead if the qualifying questions surrounding authority reveal an influence rather than a decision maker, CHAMP salespeople will continue to work with the lead, trying to get a conversion with the decision maker. CPCTBA, C&I, Goal Plan Challenges, Timeline, Budget, Authority, Negative Consequences, and Positive Implications. CPCTBA/C and I is not exactly the most catchy acronym, but it's the method that most understanding of the modern customer journey. This method keeps in mind all of the times that most customers have already done fairly extensive research on your product by the time they speak with a salesperson. So what they need really is an advisor rather than a salesperson. That means understanding the lead's goal and plan for the product before even asking them what specific challenges are. It also means asking a lead what consequences, positive or negative, would be expected to incur to the lead should your product perform well or poorly. Choosing your method. Which method works for you will depend on your business model. If you're selling a one-time product or service, BANT may work best for you. It allows you to move quickly through the sales and on to the next one. However, if a customer retention is an important goal, customer-centric methods like CHAMP or GPCTBA/CNI will help you achieve those goals. 11 examples of questions to ask on your call. Do you already spend money to solve this problem using a different product? If so, what's working with it and what's not? What made you decide on that product? Do you currently have a contract with a competitor? When is it up for renewal? Are you using any of our competitors? We are in agreement on the potential ROI of this product. How does your organization make purchases decisions? Who else besides yourself will be included in the decision? What potential concerns do others involved in the process have? Who will be overseeing the implementation of the product? What problem are you seeking to solve with our solution? What challenges are you currently facing? How long have you been facing these challenges? How long do you hope for implementation to take? What features are a must have and why? If you don't reach your goals, what are the consequences? Red flags to watch for. Even the most perfect SQL definition won't stop you from getting some leads who just are not interested. The following behaviors should be considered disqualification. Short answers. If your lead isn't providing you with much detail throughout your call, they're almost certainly not interested. Inconsistent answers. If your lead is continually contradicting themselves, they probably are not interested in you or may have enough of a problem that they need to solve yet, or not even have enough of a problem that they need to solve yet. If the lead purposely blocks you from speaking to the decision maker, it's time to drop them. You can't make a sale if you don't speak to the people making the decision. If the lead appears only mildly interested in solving their problem or changing products, don't waste your time. Let them know they can find you when they're more interested. Refusing to nail down a timeline. In the modern world, by the time you speak with the prospects, they should know they have a problem and have a pretty decent idea of when they need it fixed. If your lead does not have an idea yet, they're not ready to buy. Again, let them know how to get in touch and don't waste your time. Any sort of unethical or generally creepy behavior should also disqualify your prospect. It's not worth jeopardizing you and your company's professional reputations for a lead. Qualifying your lead is such an important step for salespeople. It should never be skipped. Rather than throwing things at a wall and hoping something sticks, approach each potential prospect strategically and only continue the conversation when they're interested in purchasing. Part 2. Cold calling scripts, tips, and techniques straight from the experts. Picking up the phone and dialing with a stranger with an expectation of building a sales relationship can be a daunting task, even under the best circumstances. With that said, however, cold calling is still alive and well in 2018, and many companies are still using the traditional sales tactic effectively. To improve on your own cold calling process, we posed the following question to 9 experts. What's the best cold call script you have ever used? Some responded with specific scripts that they currently rely on, while others provided tips and techniques for success. Take a look at the responses below and some fire to your own cold calling process. P.S. Hate your current CRM? We're still working off spreadsheets. Register now for our intro to live demo and see why our sales team love us. The flexible cold call script. We buy houses to either flip or to hold them as rentals. We cold call people in and around Atlanta to see if they would like to consider a offer on their property and sell their home. Our cold callers use Mojo Dialer so that we can make calls rapidly. We average 70.2 calls per hour, which account for the time spent in conversation as well. Every hour that we make calls, we get 1.13 leads, which is a 1.6 conversion rate. We, on average, we average 27 leads to get a contract signed that turns into a deal for our company to purchase a discount house for a flip or rental. So we know that we have to make calls about 21 hours to get a house under contract. We what we like about this script is that it's not word for word script. No cold calls go exactly the same way, but our team handles the same objections and questions consistently. We have laid out how to handle those objections in the most sequential way possible and boldened them to that it's easy for our team to find in our heat of the call. Avoiding the word for word script follows our team to focus more on building rapport than prospect and dig a little deeper instead of treating a cold calling script as a checklist and not just listening to the prospect's needs. Script. Hi, I'm looking for prospect name. My name is name, and I am sorry this call is out of the blue, but I was calling about a home I believe you own on this address. I am actually looking to buy a home in this neighborhood and wanted to see if you had thoughts about selling it or would consider an offer. No response. I completely understand. Do you have any other properties you'd be consider selling? Yes. Great. It looks like the home is X square feet. Is that right? Great. Have you done any major remodeling to the kitchen, bathrooms in the last 5 years? Did you have a price in mind? In the future. Okay, great. Are you thinking about in a couple months? My partner name will reach out to you to introduce themselves. How did you get my number? I have a third party company named LexisNexis that I send addresses of home we're interested in, and they send us phone numbers if they have them. How much are you offering? My response. My partner actually runs all the numbers in the condition of the home is the big factor. Have you done any major remodeling to the kitchen, bathroom in the last 5 years? A final note on pre-qualifying. The 4 pillars of pre-qualifying are really important. The the more of these you can get from the owners, the better. The 4 pillars are condition of the home, timeline to sell, motivation, and price. Top questions for the condition. Have you done any major remodeling to the kitchen and bathroom in the last 5 years? How is the AC unit and roof? Is it at 3 or 2 bathhouses? Top question for timeline. We usually close the transaction in 14 to 30 days. Does that time work for you? Top question for motivation. If you were to sell the home, where would you move to next? Would you stay at a local or would you stay local or would you move out of town? Top question for price. If you owned it for a while, what do you think it's worth? How much are you looking for? If I can get you cash, as in what is the best price? If I pay all the closing costs, is there no real estate commission? The Be Different approach. When it comes to cold calling, the most significant aspect is to be different. Decision makers get spammed all day with calls and emails. To effectively break through the monotony, you can't sound like a robot and you must sound different than your competition. My sales scripts are very depending upon how the conversation flows, but overall, I follow the same 5 steps to ensure success. Thank them for picking up. This goes a long way to separate me from the pack. People who like to feel in control when you thank someone. You make them feel like the illusion of control without actually giving it up, like pumping their ego. The key with cold calling is that you need to be in control. You have very little time, so the conversation needs to be under your control the whole time. Avoid hesitation to get to the point. Decision makers are busy people. Getting to the point keeps you looking professional and shows that you are respectful of their time. I'm asking for the time on their calendar, not a sale. That's the key. I'm selling the meeting, not my services. Always provide a response to their objection. More times than not, the decision maker will always have some sort of objection, and this is where you have to be on your toes. The key is to fully agree with them. Do not say I understand. That will spell death for your sale. Saying, yeah, you're right, puts the illusion of control back in the prospect's hands and shakes them up. They will not be expecting you to agree with what they're saying. Relate their problem to one we are solving for their current client. Saying that a current client said the same thing does two things. First, it lets them know they are not alone. Humans are not made to be alone. We strive for some community that leads into the second thing it does. It already begins to prime them to group themselves in with our client base. Because I said that they are similar to other one of our clients now twice, they begin to group themselves in there and typically are open to hearing more. I directly ask for the meeting. I want to respect their time, so I asked to schedule a separate meeting to talk about this further. The word chat is important too. Talk is too serious, and it sounds like it could last a while. Chatting is light, breezy, and non committal. It gives the impression that this is not a sales meeting, but more like a catch up over coffee. The schedule call approach. The goal of cold calling is not to conduct a needs analysis, pitch, close, or even to engage in a conversation. The purpose of cold calling is to move from interruption into a scheduled meeting where you will have the prospect's undivided attention. How do expert sellers do that? It's not by sharing all of your information up front. 30 to 60-second elevator style pitch. Instead, of seasoned professionals create calls scripts engineered to ask questions that yield predictable answers. This back and forth helps transition the prospect's state of mind and leads to an increased likelihood of securing a meeting. Here's an example of my script for cold calling. This script has led to generating millions of dollars in new business for agencies small and large. Hi, person. My name is Person, and I am with company. Are you doing well today? This begins interaction with a predictable answer. I'm fine. That's great. Prospect name. Have I caught you at a bad time? No, this is a question with 3 predictable answers. I'm about to run into a meeting. What's this about? I understand and promise to be brief. Again, my name is this, and I'm with this creative shop company. I'm calling because we help clients like you drive retail sales. Can I ask, are you familiar with this company? No, now that I've successfully restated my name, the agency, and shared value proposition, unless you're one of the top 10 agencies in the world, most people haven't heard of you. However, when they say no, that's your invitation to share more information. No, I'm not. What do you do? We're a fully integrated creative agency that helps clients in your business like client A and client B and client C. Our clients tell us that we've helped them improve their sales at our retail up by 89%. Can I ask, are you still the VP of marketing? Note, I have successfully provided background on the agency and provided proof of credibility by name and clients. I've also restated our value proposition and tied it into tangible results. To keep the prospect engaged, I end with asking another question and with a predictable answer. Yes, I am. Great. Well, I know you're busy, and although I don't know if we're a good fit for you yet, why don't we schedule for a brief call? Most everyone gets value from learning how we've improved our clients' sales at retail. Would that be of interest? I've demonstrated empathy, restating my value proposition a third time and asking for the meeting. In a brief exchange, the first step of the sales process is complete. This script has led to millions of dollars for new business wins for enterprise companies by shifting the prospect's state of mind with a short question with a predictable answer and focusing on scheduling a meeting. You'll discover yourself bringing into better balance and necessity for component for success in the combined art of science of cold calling. The push-pull script. Today, cold calling is practically a waste of time if you're using the same old aggressive tactics that turn most prospects off. The key is not to push or pull back. These steps are created in your own words and style. Research. Find a reason to call. You read an article, notice a product they introduced, etc. Intro. Use push, pull, and ground rules. Using the above information, the intro should sound like something like this. This is your name with company X, and I see that you guys are doing reason for call. So I thought I might make sense to see if we may be able to work together on it, but I don't want to assume that you are not already in that area. Continuing on, establish ground rules. So I thought it would make sense to take a few minutes, ask some questions, and see what you do, and I might be able to fit. If it is great, we can discuss further, and if not, that is okay too. At least we didn't spend a bunch of wasted time together. Sounds okay? Ask questions. Questions should be open ended and allow the person to talk about whatever it is you called about your research. Then ask additional questions, but no more than a few, and no selling. Summary. Recap the conversation. Example. So customer name. Based on what you've said, it sounds like it makes sense for us to discuss this further. And what do you think? Clear steps. The next step, not call back, but a true on the calendar appointment for the next step is that you both agree on. Short recap email. You must recap what was discussed and put into a short email. This is not to boast about your company, but to show that you actually listened and to confirm your understanding. Tip: don't give prospects an easy way to dodge you. When I started out in sales, I was afraid of how the other person would reply to my icebreaker, which often sets the tone for remaining conversation. The standard, "is this the right time to talk?" would constantly get me into a no, mainly because people responded in kind. They picked up negative questions unconsciously without giving them a second thought, until I switched to "how are you?" This polite inquiry is perceived as something natural and non-intrusive. Prospects don't need to come up with an excuse to dodge you. They'll just answer the question on the spot. Just make sure to rehearse it so it sounds like you really mean it. The jazz improv cold call. We have developed two methods. One is the golden hour. The other is jazz improvisation. Those who play jazz know that improvisation is encouraged with the boundaries of a song, chord progression, and rhythmic structure. Instead of playing of a musical score, you compose on the spot using your musical experience and insight to inform your playing. In the same way, all sales calls can be personalized in a dynamic within the parameters that are established previously. The jazz improvisation consists first of gathering full information of your client so that you can transmit your prospect a certain sense of familiarity. And the most important, stop using scripts in your calls since they are usually impersonal and prevent conversation from flowing naturally. The calling process in sales in general must be customized to meet the individual and specific needs of the client. In my years of experience, I can recommend that today it is not important for you to plan your first call in detail. Instead, it's best to focus on gathering information about your prospect. Unless you sell something cheap that does not require much attention, asking questions to discover more important about your new potential customer will create a better result in following the call. The cold email follow-up script. Hi X, this is your name with company. How are you doing? Awesome. I just sent you an email about solution, but before I get ahead of myself, is that something you and your team handle? Okay, awesome. Do you guys see any interest with problem solution solves? Yeah, I hear that as a lot. Well, sentence one, two, blah blah blah. Or I take that back. Yeah, I hear a lot. I hear that a lot. Well, 1 to 2 sentence elevator pitch. This is where I ask a few qualifying questions. It seems like this would be a good fit for you with problem solution solves. I'm looking to schedule a 15-minute on your calendar and walk you through what we have. Do you have your calendar in front of you? I really like the question at the beginning, asking if the problem area is something that the employee or team would like to handle. Most cold calls end up with gatekeeper or a junior leader. It's important not to pitch them too much on giving them a chance to say no. It's far better to get to the decision maker before ranting about your own product. Junior employees are 62% more likely to reject a salesperson than a senior executive According to Velocify, this shows pitching to the wrong person. Not only they probably can't write checks, but since they are more likely to tell you to say no, then refer you to those decision makers. If you're not talking to the right person, it's important to find out early and sell them on connecting you with the right employee. In reality, can you connect me to the right person? Pitch should be the most common for cold callers. The detailed approach. Too many sales gurus tell you that cold calling is dead, but in the truth is they just don't want to do it. Sales training will usually identify up roughly 75% of salespeople would never even follow up on the first. Sales training will usually identify that roughly 75% of salespeople never even follow up one time with a prospect. So if you are struggling financially, you must cold call. The process. Identify yourself, first name only, the and purpose of your call. Make a pitch with a real testimonial or just state why you're calling. Ask your first stamp hook question as soon as possible. Ask the next two stamp hook questions. Wait for them to invite you for an appointment or lead with an assuming the sales question like when you are in the office. When you are in the office, or when does your sales team meet? Handle objections if they even come up. Get a day or time on the calendar and send a calendar invite. Get the cell phone number from the decision maker and text them the day before the meeting and ask how they would like their coffee. Script. Caller. Hi, name. Its name with company. We are offering complimentary 1 hour sales training workshop to increase your team's performance. Perhaps you would like to have your team evaluated on their effectiveness. In the top 10 skill based top income earners, how many people do you have on your sales team? To be sure I'm not wasting your time, do you have a standard for how many dials per day your sales team makes? Stump question. If I could make your life easier, what are the top two things you would like to enhance your sales team? Why don't you come in so we can talk? Set the appointment and make sure to get their cell phone number. Handling objection. Objection. Oh, we are all set, caller. I appreciate that, but would your sales guy tell you that they are satisfied with current income? Why don't you buy them lunch and I'll come test their abilities, fine tune their skills, and give them some motivation? We have in house trainers, caller. I hear what you're saying, but do you know how many advisors the president has? Prospect, no. Caller. Clearly not enough. Right, prospect, ha ha ha, caller. But seriously, insert stump question. Objection, we're satisfied. Do you and your sales staff deserve more? We are here in location and are servicing our community based on owners by helping them increase their sales staff performance to make even more money. We typically will come back every 6 months to a year for future professional development. Would you be open to attending one of these sessions? Remember, you're building a relationship because everyone buys eventually. Technique. Stack 100 pennies and make 100 calls. My best trick for cold calling outreach was always to offer value directly to the target that had enough customer lifetime value to be worth the effort of building a relationship. The best currency I had back then was some brick and mortar mom and pop type business, links and exposure online by interviewing them about their practices. This interview or a visit started a relationship and gave me plenty of reasons to ask qualifying questions to really understand what they were doing, what was working, and what was struggling with. Not only did this help me close some sales, it gave me a lot of general understanding of the market. The best tip I ever got was to flip my expectations. Don't look to make one sale. Look to make 100 calls. Take a stack of 100 pennies and start taking them down as you make each call each day. Success moving pennies and taking the rejection is not about the sales. Part 3, practical cold calling strategies that can start using today. You'll use local numbers for calling. Most people are reluctant to answer calls on their mobile phone if they cannot recognize the area code. So if your salespeople are calling your potential buyers from an unknown long distance number, like or a 1-800 number, most of your calls will be answered and those leads will be wasted. Using local numbers to call your prospects will help ensure a good connect rate. Mind your talk to listen ratio. Successful cold calling are not just about pitching the product, but ensuring you have an engaging conversation with your prospect, which is why sales reps need to come prepared with an open ended question and an awareness of their talk to listen ratio. While there is no ideal talk to listen ratio, the average speaking time of a rep of a successful cold call is 44%. So keep your talk between 40 and 49%. Also, coming to a call with an open ended question allows the sales rep to create more engaging moments while the prospects talk for more than 30 seconds. Referrals are a game changer. Overall, cold calling or cold emailing is only effective if you either immediately utility value of the prospect or have credibility built up immediately in the first 4 seconds of the call. Using a referral source or recommended shared contact is huge. I also have a cold script that has closed 90% of my calls into a set meeting with top C suite executives. The key is being able to communicate what they want, not what you want. What so they naturally want to know more. Ask questions to understand their desired future states. It's important to know how your product or service impacts an organization process before you have a consultant call. This is your opportunity to truly understand the client's business. What is their process look like and what their process looks like today and what their desired future state looks like. You're not necessarily selling a product or service, you're selling change. In order to know what that change looks like, you need to be curious enough to ask targeted questions around their process. Once you understand their process, you can paint a picture of what that improved future state looks like. The path for the prospect to get there is making the decision to change using whatever you are selling. Mirror the prospect. When on a discovery or consulting call, be sure to mirror the potential buyer's most important points to back them up. This technique keeps control, builds rapport, and drives success for upcoming conversions or conversations.